Hey, good morning, everybody. How's it going? I see you there, Rashad. Let me unmute you. We have Rashad Richardson here with us today. Oh, did I unmute you? I think I might have unmuted the wrong person. Hang on a sec.
Okay.
Hey, Rashad.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you, man?
Doing well.
So good to have you on with us here this morning. Catch the moon. I'm John. Really great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, John.
Yeah, so yeah, just want to jump straight into things. I think we're gonna get this thing going. We're gonna a few people. Let me just make sure. I think as people jump on, we might get a couple folks.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, yeah, I think I got it under lockdown now. We should be good from now on. All right, so great. Hey, Rashad. So I can see that you work for Madden Flow Entertainment Group. You're a synchronization and licensing coordinator.
Yeah.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about kind of your background, how you got into the position that you're in, and what you do.
Sure. All right. So my background, education, I started at Berklee College of Music, and it was there where I studied music business. And I took two important internships that sort of got the ball rolling. The two important internships that I did were I did ASCAP, which is a performance rights organization, and I did BMG Chrysalis in New York. And the BMG Chrysalis one was an A&R internship that sort of went hand in hand with sync TV film. And it was there where I started a role where I was sort of like a filter when songwriters would submit different songs for different album opportunities. It was my job to kind of filter through the maybe songs that weren't hitting the nail on the head and forward those to my A&R manager at the time. And from there, I moved to LA after graduating Berklee, and I did pretty much like a little temp job, sort of marathon, and I ultimately landed at Universal Music Publishing Group. And that temp job turned into a permanent job in which I ended up working at Universal Music Publishing Group for nearly 5 years. And during my time there, I worked in the royalty department. And then from the royalty department, I was able to transition into TV film clearance. And TV film clearance, that's in that role, it's pretty much after the pitching has been done, after the song has been landed, it's pretty much reaching out to the shareholders of the songs, reaching out to the songwriters, the other co-publishers, and just negotiating rates, making sure that everyone's happy with the amount that they'll receive from the sync fee, with their percentage of the split that they're getting. And at that point, I knew that that's where I wanted to be, but not exactly in the exact role. I knew that I wanted to be more on the front end where I'm actually doing music pitching myself. And that I'm also like getting the music briefs on the front end and sort of going through the catalog of music that I own and pitch those accordingly. So that's how I ended up at Madden Flow, which gave me the opportunity to work with some songwriters who have written songs that I'm already fans of, as well as have the opportunity to pitch those songs. And so that's where I'm currently at now. That's how I guess that would be all of the steps to how I ended up where I am.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So it sounds like a really great journey. You got a lot of foundational work, and then you just kind of stepped up from there into working at Madden Flow. With Madden Flow, it sounds like you have your own library of music that you pitch, but it sounds like with the company that you're working with now, you also get the opportunity to meet exciting new artists and collaborate with them. Is that true?
Yeah, so it's definitely collaborating with them in the sense of speaking to them about what current trends music supervisors are looking for, or what what production companies are looking for their next TV show. Yes, I collaborate with songwriters and artists in the sense of working hand in hand to kind of let them know what's on the horizon, and maybe the next time they go to the studio, if they're looking for any kind of inspiration as to what to write next, then why not write something that already we know that music supervisors are asking us for?
So in a way, you've become kind of a tastemaker in a way. You're helping guide people in their creative decisions when they're in the studio to write for something that's highly marketable.
Right.
The whole goal is to land syncs, right? So you're
Yes.
helping these artists to understand exactly what's being looked for right now, and kind of like, it sounds cool. It sounds like you're right on the front of like what is happening and what people are looking for, like how things are changing from week to week and month to month.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So in terms of the in terms of the projects that you're pitching for, and your company places stuff on, what are the types of projects that you're all working on?
Sure. So the types of projects that we usually get are like with TV scenes. There are usually moments within TV scenes where maybe, there's a death, or the characters have to say bye to each other, or it's just, so definitely very specific scenes that call for very specific songs. The same goes with movies, so you have that. And then you also have trailers, which we get briefs for trailers, whether it be action trailer, comedy trailer for a movie. So I would say mostly that. And one thing that we've been getting late is actually searches for moments within podcasts. So it's pretty exciting to experience something new after, for the most part, it's been just TV shows and movies for so long.
Yeah, podcasting is really an emerging thing. Yeah, so that's really great. So sounds like you get briefs from kind of all over the place in terms of like just the types of scenes they're needing music, and the types and the formats, TV shows,
Right.
which is cool. I guess like what's you told me a little bit about what your gig is at Mad and Flow. What's kind of your day-to-day like?
Okay, so my day-to-day, you have the mostly fun part that I touched on, which is reading the music briefs and actually searching through our library to see if we have the best song to pitch. But aside from that, me being a coordinator, there are still nuts and bolts that need to be done, which is, by us having songwriters and these songwriters always writing music, that means that we're constantly getting music that we need to ingest. And when we get this music, it's my job to upload everything into Disco. Are most people familiar with Disco?
Yeah, most everybody. We Catch the Moon. We use Disco, and we praise it. We love it. It's great.
It really is great, especially with the new formatting that they're doing. So it's my job to like ingest the music and listen to everything that we get, tag the music. And then also, for the most part, when a song comes in, we want to go ahead and be ahead of the curve. And if there isn't a instrumental that comes with the song, we want to go ahead and reach back out to the artist and ask for the corresponding instrumental, because most times when you pitch music, the music supervisor or production team is going to want that instrumental. So I guess you could say it's a lot of vetting that goes into that ingestion process as well. And aside from that, we also do a bit of soft marketing on behalf of our artists. So if our artist submits us new music and also gives us a heads up, hey, this will be released on Friday, or this will be released in 2 weeks, it's my job to set up what's called e-blast, which can also be done through Disco, in which we like to target specific music supervisors based on the album that's been created. So I would say for the most part, those are my main three functions: e-blast, ingesting new music and organizing it, tagging it, and curating playlists, and then pitching music.
Very cool. Yeah. Sounds like a lot of juggling, a lot of things at once.
Coordinator, man. As a coordinator, you got to take what gets thrown at you.
Awesome. So as far as Matt and Flo, like what kinds of, projects, I guess we like to know, like, as far as companies, like what projects are you landing stuff on? What projects are cool that you're working on? Is there anything the students are always asking, like, well, what do you need? What are you working on?
Right. Yeah. So the last major placement we had was with a Hallmark movie. It was called A Summer Romance. There was that, and then beyond that, it's mostly just like different video game options, and I would say also just like the little, yes, like the NBA 2K like little shorts and things like that. Definitely a lot of 2K related projects and hip hop stuff that requires pop and a lot of movement.
So, and you mentioned hip hop. It's like, in terms of the genres that your agency handles, like what would you say kind of encapsulates everything that you do? What would you describe your catalog like in general?
Yeah, so the catalog is mainly based on hip hop, pop, and top 40, and just anything that's quality that can be pitched at an indie price. That's mostly the niche that we fit in. But that being said, we also it's interesting because we have songwriters who have maybe about 3% to 15% on a Chris Brown song, or 3 to 15% on just another household name song. So it's always tricky because we have these songs that we love in our chamber, but we just have to wait for that right brief that comes through that not only fits but also just works with the budget that we get for the brief.
Yeah, because if somebody has 3% of a Chris Brown song, they probably wouldn't be cleared for $1,000 or something like that.
Exactly.
Do that. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's definitely moments like that. But one thing that we have stepped in the bounds of too is we're branching out into folk music as well as jazz. Just because the big thing is Matt and Flo started about 6 months ago, so it's a fairly new company. But with that being said, we are trying to expand, or not even trying. We are expanding into different, more niche genres, just for every brief that we get that's for popular music, we get about 2 or 3 that's for just eclectic, left field, and just something that's outside of that top 40 range. Yeah.
So you're branching out. You realize that you have these briefs that are coming in, and you're trying to build your library around to basically meet the demand.
Exactly. Right. You definitely want to stay ahead of the demand.
Yeah.
We don't want to be Popeyes with the chicken sandwich, basically.
Yeah. How does Matt and Flo receive the music it uses for its projects?
So how do we receive the music?
Yeah. How do people do people like directly submit music to you?
Okay. Yes.
Like how do people approach the company or just like you have a roster of artists already that you're just kind of, when you founded the company, we're kind of building around, or just what is your library composed of, and how do you find new music for it?
Yes. So we have on our website, which is mattandflowentertainment.com, we have a section where artists and songwriters can submit new music, in which it is always welcome, because we just always have a brief where ideally we would love to have that song already in the chamber, in the library, already tagged, so that we can pitch it ASAP, because time is the name of the game too. So yes, we have an artist submission and music submission within our website, as well as we do a lot of proactive recruiting as well. We represent all of our artists on a non-exclusive basis, so it makes it really easy for us to do recruiting, because most songwriters and artists by us not having an exclusive agreement, they don't really have a disadvantage at all. So
great. That's awesome. Do you find like with the projects that you're getting briefs for, do you tend to like get asked for stuff more with like vocals or stuff more instrumentals? But what would you say, like in terms of the music that's being looked for in your library? What people are asking for?
Yes, I would say that overall it's usually full songs that include vocals that are requested, but 80 to 90% of the time, it's always going to be vocals, but we want the instrumental version.
Hmm. Now with actually with the whole urban and hip hop stuff, it's really interesting to think about like how often you might get a request for something that doesn't really matter if it's like clean or not. How often does that factor into things? I would imagine it factors in quite a bit, huh?
It factors in so much, and I can't tell you how many times that both at Madden Flow and also when I was at my former job, it's always been a case where I've had the perfect hip hop song, but the brief that requested the song is like, hey, we need the song by in an hour or end of the day. And it's the dirty version, and I just hadn't been able to get the clean version because we didn't already have it in our system. And for some reason or another, the artist wasn't able to provide the clean version, reach out to their producer to make a clean version. So I say all that to say that that's another thing where when I'm doing that ingestion process, if it is a hip hop song that has profanity, I reach right back out right away to also ask for a clean version. It's very important.
Oh yeah. So you're like when one of those comes in, you're like, we really need the clean version. Otherwise we
Yes.
could be missing out on a big, something big.
Good. And the nature of a sync agency is always you need to cater to the music supervisor or production company, and you never want to create more work for them. So if they're asking for a clean version, you don't want to be that person that sends them a dirty version and says, "Hey, we're gonna get you the clean version. But we can get it by tomorrow." You don't want to do that. So it's very important.
Yeah, it's part of like that trust relationship that you're building with your partners, and it's just like the more you can just kind of fill the order to a T, it's like
Exactly.
that's like the best way to go about it. That's cool. Yeah. So we hear this. The reason I just like nod a lot to everything you're saying, it's like what we hear from like pretty much everybody that we bring in here in terms of like being professional, in terms of like if there's something that you think they could need, going that extra mile to
Yes.
making sure that you can just really make their job easy.
Right. And it's
Formats they need.
yes, and it's about building relationships for sure. So, and when you finally see that person at the Guild of Music Supervisors event, or you finally see that person at just whatever networking event you go to, it's just they appreciate it so more. Like I've literally had people say like the reason why we click play on what you submit or what you pitch is because we know it's within the parameters of what we're asking for. So it's very important.
Rashad just had a question in the chat for hip hop. Do you ever need a dirty version?
Oh, yes, that's definitely the case too, where people specifically say, hey, we need profanity. A perfect example, there was a song that I pitched for a few months back, but it was just a scene that was based on kids in a classroom that the whole purpose was they were like chanting along to a song that had to be dirty. So when the teacher walked in, the teacher was, surprised. So just to give you an exact example of that. So that was one of those cases where, yes, we needed a song loaded with profanity.
Totally makes sense for that moment. That's what it's needed.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So Rashad, we got a bunch of students here at Catch the Moon, all eager to make music that companies like yours can pitch. What are the types of things that grab your attention when somebody submits something to you that makes you think, oh, this is something that could be used? Like what are some general things that you would say about music that kind of stands out to you?
Sure. I would say first off, originality. You don't really want to add something to your library that sounds just like everything else that you already have in your library. So there's that. But I would say what's really important is the cleanliness of the mix. Like when I click play, I would love for the quality of the song as far as just the mix to sound like if I were to click a Beyonce song next, there isn't really a inconsistency where the volume's lower, the snare is way louder than the snare I just heard on this Beyonce
Mm.
song. So I'd say, and just the nuts and bolts are equally as important as the actual talent and chord progressions. And and speaking of that, that's another thing that I love to check for too is I went to Berkeley, and there I studied a lot of like music theory, and I just love songs that have tasty chords in it, or just any kind of song where there's the melody just locks in perfectly with the chords. So that's something where right away I I want to just have that in my library at my access so that I can pitch that when the perfect opportunity comes. Yes.
So production and mix quality is just absolutely important.
It is, because when you pitch this stuff to a music supervisor, you don't want them to hit play and it sounds like they're a pillow over their speakers now, because that kind of reflects on it reflects on your company too when you're pitching stuff that isn't up to the quality it should be.
Mm. That's part of building the trust is sending high quality stuff. And would you say it's fair to say that, like, for somebody like you who listens to a lot of music and you have a taste for like what stuff that's on the radio sounds like, it's probably for the people, the music supervisors, it's just as much, if not even more, because they're listening to maybe even more volume of music and even have like more refined tastes of what they expect something to hear when they're listening to it.
Exactly. They are the final buck. The buck stops with them. So it's just I'm sure that's exactly the case.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And as far as like the chords, when you're saying like that the melody kind of goes and everything goes really well with the chords, would you say it's a thing where like maybe elaborate a little bit more on that, what you mean in terms of like the relationship to like the top line to the chord?
Right. Yeah, so it's a couple of different layers here. And actually I'll touch on one that's also important is the level of energy that the artist has with the track. Like if you're, for instance, submitting an EDM track or a track that, maybe starts in pop and goes to EDM, and the vocalist or artist is like rapping or singing like really chill, nonchalant, there's an inconsistency there that a music supervisor would pick up on and probably decide to pass on that track just because of the level of energy and the inconsistency thereof. But as far as melodies and chords, I would say it happens more often than I thought it would, but there are still cases where I might get a submission and the melody might hit a flat note on a major chord. Like it might hit a flat third on a major chord, and now you have this dissonance happening. And it's just moments like that where it's just so important to have the nuts and bolts as far as the musicality down pat within the song as a whole.
Mm. And so you're saying your earlier point about like there's possibly interesting juxtapositions that can happen in music when you have a track that's one way, but maybe the vocals kind of in a different style, but
Right.
if it's not done like in the right way, it can actually kind of feel like it's not in alignment with kind of the vibe and the energy of the track. And it
There it is. That's
detracts.
exactly it. Yes, I totally agree.
Cool. Yeah. Totally hear that too when I'm listening to stuff. Something I certainly listen for, and as like a music creator and somebody who's helping the folks here in the class, it's something we're always trying to teach. I had somebody tell me once that it's like you want kind of your top line to kind of really be in complete alignment with the track, be in complete alignment with the message that you're trying to get across.
Exactly.
Do you find there's like a correlation between like the way in which something's sung and that the lyrical content as well, like those things needing to be in like really like lockstep and key?
Yes, I totally agree. And it varies from genre to genre, of course, because in R&B, for instance, wouldn't want someone like you wouldn't want somebody bringing like a rock energy on an R&B song. And so it's just it goes vice versa. On a rock song, you wouldn't want a chill R&B vibe in the vocals. So yes, like you just it's all about just the overall cohesiveness, I would say. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So good to get your insights on all this. I got a couple questions from the chat here.
Yes, I see it blowing up. I'm excited too. I was actually trying not to get too distracted because I started answering questions.
Oh, I'm so bad at like when I'm doing these calls, I'm so bad. It's just like I can't even pay attention. But yeah, let's jump into a couple questions from the chat here.
Okay.
Lori was asking, when you started your business, how did you reach out to music supervisors so they knew about you? Just in terms of like, yeah, when the company started, how did you start going out and approaching and making those contacts?
Sure. Believe it or not, most of it was done because, well, I'd already worked with a lot of music supervisors through my past job. So half of it was simply just stating, hey, it was nice pitching music to you when I was at Universal. Now at Madden Flow, and I would love to continue pitching music based off of this new catalog that I'm working with. The other half is being physically present. By the company being based in LA, I'm able to easily be at, there's an event called Beefeaters United out in LA. And that's where literally every music supervisor, every coordinator, everyone goes to just go to a random burger spot, have burgers, chill, have drinks. So it's easy to go there. There's another very big community called the Guild of Music Supervisors, and the timing just worked out perfectly. That close to when I started at Madden Flow, the big Guild of Music Supervisor event where the Jim Malones, the Daryl Bergs, just everyone who's a music supervisor on an important show, they're there, and they're not only there, but they're speaking at a panel. And after the panel, it's just an open field where they come out, mix, mingle, and it's easy to just introduce yourself as that person that you've already emailed and spoken to, and they're like, oh, you're that person, okay, cool. And then so there, it's where usually your email can get added into that database of most pitches. It's kind of heartbreaking to say this out loud, and I'm sure you already know the deal, but most pitches or creative briefs that I get, I'm usually blind copy with at least about 20 to 30 other sync agencies or other coordinators of other companies who are pitching the best music from their library. So but regardless of that, if you're on that list, then that means the music supervisor or production company respects your discretion when it comes to what you pitch out. So you still got to take it as a plus.
That's amazing. We preach so much how important it is to get out there, to start making these relationships if you have to via online. But if you get the opportunities, like going to like one of those Guild of Music Supervisor events, I know they just had like a conference of sorts. Actually, Hunter George very recently.
Oh yeah, he's a personal friend, actually.
He's such a nice dude. Yeah. So we had him on, I think it was like a month or two ago, and it was great. But yeah, and I know that everybody in the chat is going to want to know the name of that place that you mentioned again, the restaurant or whatever it was.
Oh yes, Beefeaters United.
Beefeaters United. Okay.
Yes.
That's great, and it totally makes sense too, because like you're building relationships where you came from, and then it's just a lot of times it's like just because you change companies doesn't mean that the goodwill and the relationship and the rapport that you have with the people that you were working with completely goes away.
Yes, as long as you leave in a good fashion, then even still there are moments where you can even find yourself working hand in hand with your former employer. If it's depending on what your role is at the next company. So yes, and it's a really small community too. So
it is actually, I tell that to everybody. It's just the you start climbing up the ladder even a little bit, and it just gets, you realize you're in a pretty small room after a while, and everybody knows each other. And it's why it's like so important to just do your best to be a good person, be honest in your dealings in the industry. Do what you say you're going to do, don't burn any bridges, because, It's small circle. Probably word gets around. I guess.
Indeed. Indeed. Yes. It's a small circle, and also for LA, a small city. Which, by the way, is Catch the Moon? Are you guys based in LA?
Yeah, we're based right here in LA.
Oh wow. Okay. I'm sure we've probably even been in some of the same rooms. Have you done the honeypot? Any
Never.
of the honeypot events?
Haven't. I'll have to check it out.
Yes, and I would recommend it for the students as well. There, I think it's a live podcast that happens. I think it's every Tuesday or Wednesday. But the guy who runs it, who's also a friend of Hunter's, he has a music supervisor come in and not only like speak to how the journey of how they became a music supervisor, but the music supervisor actually DJs a set.
Oh, that's sick.
So it's like I found myself literally dancing on the dance floor with the person who was just, speaking and telling her journey.
So cool. So cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out. Definitely going to check it out. Let's see. We got some more. I'm sure we got some more questions here. Yeah, we did have a couple.
Sure.
I saw on your website you ask for the social media handle when you submit music. Do I need to have a following as a producer? Is it important to you to have like a artist following of any kind before submitting any music to your company?
Me personally, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, it's almost more intriguing when I find that one artist who has amazing music and a small amount of following, and it makes me, as someone who works in sync, want to just work so hard to get that placement for that artist, so that maybe narrow fan base widens like exponentially. So to answer that question in short, no, following does not matter at all, especially, and also for songwriters and producers, it really doesn't matter as much as it matters as an actual artist. But in any case, the following or lack thereof is not a deciding factor at all.
That's awesome. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all music fans, right? And
Right.
if there's music that you really dig, you're willing to go to bat for. It doesn't really matter to you if it's got a following yet or not. That's
Exactly.
awesome.
And I will say, what I just said was from my perspective, but I have gotten briefs come in where, they specifically may ask like, hey, for this song, it needs to be from a household name. Or, for this song, it needs to be someone that's bubbling on the charts
I would
currently.
get like the up and coming thing
Yes.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
Which that you'd probably need. They're probably most likely looking for something that has potential to, be so that they, as like a company or whatever, can become like Apple in a way and help break an artist or have their following kind of help elevate their brand in some kind of way.
Exactly. So I just definitely wanted to put out that one notion. But yep, that's
Yeah. Got more questions for you.
sure.
Typical. Well, I'm not sure if this is something you want to go over on this call. I assume your company probably, in terms of like the deals that you do with your artists. It sounds like you do non-exclusive deals.
Yes.
Somebody was asking for like typical terms and agreements and things like that. But I'll leave that up to you, whether you would care to answer that in any kind of detail.
Sure. I can give like a broad overview for sure, which is typically for sync companies, I guess I'll speak in general, and then maybe go into mine a little bit.
Oh,
But
that'd
in
be really cool.
general, for sync companies who represent artists on a non-exclusive basis, they usually do not touch the royalties at all. Like should a song get placed, they don't touch royalties, but they make their profit and sustain themselves based on the commission that they get from the sync fee. And so let's just put a number of $10,000. So if you get a brief that comes in for $10,000 all in, that means you have usually $5,000 to your publishing and $5,000 to your writer share. So for that, a sync company would usually take 50% of the total sync fee. It usually ranges from 20 to 50%. And it just sort of depends on the deal between the sync company and the actual artist or songwriter it, because, you know, there are different situations where maybe you have like an artist who's really hot and you really want them, so you're willing to take less of a sync fee based on their demands. It's sort of it comes to leverage as well, but it usually always ranges to 20% to 50%. So if we go back to that $10,000 total, let's just say it's 50%. So that means that artist would be walking away with $5,000 total. But when the back end comes, the royalty comes, they get 100% of that. So that's usually the terms in general.
Cool. Yeah, that's sound like certainly like terms in terms of the industry. Certainly sounds like typical deals. It's really great to
It's
break down
really.
everything. Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's see other questions. We got that. We already got that question answered. Oh, what shows, trailers, TV, film ads are you currently working with to place music on? Are there any projects you're very right now like looking for music for?
Yeah, so the Fast and Furious trailer is one that we've been actively working on, and it's one of those ones that goes up in the rounds, which is another thing to touch on, is that with the searches we get, uh, sometimes you send one song and it's over, but sometimes you send another song, they come back, that's round two. You send more songs, they come back, that's round three, and I've seen them go way up in the rounds. But yes, the Fast and Furious one is the one that we are currently working on putting a lot of focus in.
Exciting. That's exciting. As far as I did see another question earlier about just the specific, about kind of genre fluid, genre bending. Like I know your agency does a lot of stuff in hip hop and urban. Are you looking for potentially like interesting hybrids between like those genres and folk or jazz or comedy, what have you?
Yes, that's something that we are 100% looking for, and we would be excited to get, because it's one of those things that, as I mentioned, we have a lot of briefs we get in that fall outside of just the top 40, the hip hop, and it's usually hybrid. And yes, there's definitely been folk, country, and one of the biggest ones that we get and have a lack of would be swagger rock. Like we get a lot of requests that say, hey, we're looking for swagger rock. So that's all stuff where, even though we highlight mostly the urban music, pop music, we just would love, a lot of new music outside of that as well.
So you kind of touched upon some of the things you're particularly looking for right now, maybe to help fill out your library and meet the needs of the different briefs that you receive. Is there anything else you might add to that in terms of different types of songs, different themes that seem to pop up that you'd like to fill out a little bit more in your library?
Yes. So one thing I can just lay out most of the themes and trends that I've noticed as of recent, which a big one at the top would be female empowerment. We whether it comes from male vocals or female vocals, we would just definitely love those songs that just empower women. And another big thing is, like you would think that you would get a lot of briefs that come in that circle around like romantic love and I love you, but it's actually more briefs that we get that come in that may ask for lyrical themes that touch on love, but more so friendship of love and togetherness and being there for someone. Like that, we get that almost more than we get the actual like romantic love briefs. So those would be two of the top things. And then also like songs in which you have to say goodbye to someone. You got to say goodbye to a friend, goodbye to a loved one, or maybe even say goodbye to someone in the sense of we're breaking up, or in the sense of they died. Like it's like those are all lyrical themes in which we could use because the briefs definitely come in for those.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing us what you're looking for. In terms of submitting, so Chandra was asking when submitting, is it best to send more than one song at a time? Like, how do you prefer to receive songs in terms of like, do you want them all like kind of neatly organized in a playlist? How many songs would you want to hear from somebody ideally when you're first like working with somebody?
Sure. I would say up to 10 songs initially would be great because that would give, I think 10 songs is enough to get an idea of a range and also to get an idea of just the different lyrical themes in which you as an artist or songwriter have touched on. So I guess, yeah, I would say up to 10 songs and also just like almost a sampler of the different ranges, both sonically and lyric themes that you have in your catalog. It would be great to get like a scope of all of it.
Cool.
But yes, so I would say
Oh
more
yeah,
than just
sorry, I
one.
interrupt you.
Oh no, it's okay. But yeah, so what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say we got somebody who raised their hand, wants to ask a question. Michael, you want to ask a question on the stream here? I just unmuted you.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Michael.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, thanks for this. I kind of got answered actually. I'm a folkie who loves to genre blend in many different ways, and
Nice.
you just answered the themes, and so that was going to be my question. But just want to say thanks for being here and appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed myself, and these questions have been like really amazing. So yeah, I'm really glad I got to speak with everybody.
Yeah,
I'll send you stuff soon.
I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, and if anybody else has any questions, I'm pretty much out of the questions that I was planning on asking Rashad. Let me see. I might have had one more. I have a list of questions that I tend to go through. You've like really knocked it out of the park on all of them. Thanks so much for. Oh yeah. Let's see. Oh, this is one I love to ask people. Any tips as you give artists and producers on making songs easier to use on shows, movies? Is there anything aside from like, we already touched upon like the dirty versus clean version of like, urban hip hop kind of stuff. Is there anything else you would say in terms of like things that make it kind of like not possible to use a song you would otherwise really want to use?
Yeah, so I would say specific names, specific locations. I would say mostly just specific names and locations is a big one. And then also if the song contains like a skit in the beginning or a skit like in the middle and then it jumps back into the song, those can all be things in which unless we're able, the deadline is maybe a week later and I'm able to reach back out and be like, hey, are you willing to make an edit for this? Like 9 times out of 10, we wouldn't be able to pitch it. And even in the case, like say an artist does use the name Eric in a song or Erica in a song, and the pitch happens to be about a character named Eric or Erica. 9 times out of 10, the music supervisor, unless they specifically ask for it, they're going to say it's too on the nose. So that's kind of the situation you face when you use specific names and locations.
So try to avoid anything that's overly specific. And if there's if there's thing where you got like a skit or some kind of clever intro, maybe you consider doing an edit in addition to like maybe doing a clean edit on something. Consider doing an edit that maybe has those taken out.
Yes, you answered that question better than I answered it.
I'm just rephrasing I'm just trying to like reinforce the good stuff that you're giving everybody here. So
thank you.
Let's see. Oh yeah, is there any need for faith-based music? Do you get briefs for those?
You know what? That's something that I haven't really gotten as much. There was the Breaking Bad trailer that came out not too long ago for the Breaking Bad movie, and that was the only one that I had really gotten in a while, because for that specific brief they were asking for like lyrical themes of I've been changed, I've turned my life around, and so it's so I would say not as much, but what I will say is I'm sure those briefs are out there, and that's something where, like with me and Matt and Flo, we do want to eventually come across those music supervisors who also send briefs for that. And whoever acts that, who that's what's in their catalog, I would say keep killing it and keep for sure flourishing with faith-based music, because whether it be gospel or any genre, all music will need to be used at some point, and as long as it has the quality, it will find the home that it will eventually end up in.
Yeah, I've wondered, I suppose there's probably some agencies that specialize in that type of music. I've never done the research myself, but
I'm sure.
Yeah. Let's see what else. So here's another question. Would those songs about saying goodbye to someone, does it have to stay away from religious affiliation? Is it something where like making something that makes it very obvious that it's a religious connotation with it? Would that make it not possible to use in a situation like that?
I would say in this case, no. I would say no, but I would say at the same time, whoever I pitch it to, it's kind of up in the air of whether if they like notice that theme or hear that theme and decide to go with it or not, then it would kind of be up in the air. But it would be a situation where if the quality of it is great and the lyrical theme is saying goodbye, I personally would pitch it. I would still pitch it and then let the music supervisor decide.
Cool. Do we have any other questions? Anybody got any other questions? That's actually all the questions I've got for you, Rashad. You've been like just such a wealth of knowledge and information, and thank you so much for sharing all this stuff. Oh, here's one. What's the need of epic trailer music?
Yeah, so epic trailer music, which is definitely the case with Fast and Furious. And then I would say overall, I don't really get as many requests for trailers as I get for actual just in scene requests. But I am sure that the request for it is very high. But I would say in that case, it's usually trailer houses, like whoever asks the question, who composes trailer music. I would say that it would be really valuable to reach out to the trailer houses, such as Ignition, Mob Scene, just any of those trailer houses. Your music might be a great fit with them, because that's where all those briefs are going to first, for sure.
Any playlists on Spotify you want to share with the group? Anything that you really are digging? Just anything music wise that you're really digging right now that you say, hey, you got to check this out. This is really dope.
For sure. Well, this is going to sound very generic, but I always keep an eye on Billboard Hot 100, just so I can know what the world is listening to. I follow the Good Music playlist, which includes so many great songs because it covers everything from Kanye to John Legend to Pusha T to just everyone who's affiliated with Kanye's Good Music label. There's film and TV favorites that I follow. Who is this? Let me see who. Okay, it's actually Quentin Tarantino Takeover film and TV favorites. I follow that, and I'm sure a lot of people in this class would enjoy that. Let's see, what's another one?
You said Quentin Tarantino Takeover?
Yeah, so it's called Film and TV. Well, it's called Film, and then it's the ampersand, I think, and TV favorites. And then the description is Quentin Tarantino takes over favorites from his movies.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So it's a ridiculous list. And once upon a time ago, I used to, when I was focusing on making beats, I used to sample a lot of Quentin Tarantino's songs to make beats with. So
that's amazing.
Thank you. And the other one is alternative R&B, which gives you a lot of like left of center R&B. And it's almost like, wow, I would say it's almost like sometimes even indie pop, indie rock meets soul and R&B. So it's a really good. It's one of those genre blending kind of things, and it's a whole playlist of it. So
Thanks
I
for
recommend
sharing all your tastes in music. Appreciate that, man. I got a question. Got Anthony here raised his hand. Go ahead and unmute him so he can ask you his question himself.
Sure.
Hey, Rashad.
Hey, Anthony.
Hey, how's it going, man? Hey, thanks for doing this. So Quentin Tarantino has music?
Well, so it's all of the composers that he's worked with in all of his films.
Oh,
It's
okay.
he's made a playlist of all of those soundtrack songs from his films. So
Oh,
I would
cool.
say he has music in that sense of.
Right. Oh, that's cool. My question was going to be, so are you guys doing the Fast and Furious, like the movie as well, or just the trailer?
We've only received the brief for the trailer. Yeah.
Okay.
But that is it. And then maybe at some point we could. It's always possible that we could get a brief for maybe a specific scene, or it's a situation where they found themselves maybe over budget, or a case where they might need another option for a song within the movie. In that case, we would probably receive a brief for it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Hey, thanks again.
Hey, thanks. Thank you. Y'all have been great.
Thanks, Anthony, for the question. So we got a few more in here in the chat. Won't keep you too much longer here, Rashad, but you mind answering a few more?
Oh yeah, I'm enjoying myself.
Thanks. All right, great. Glad it doesn't feel like going to the dentist or something.
Oh, not at all.
Let's see. Thanks for the, we got somebody who's asking for more specifics on your typical deals. Do you take publishing? It didn't sound like you take publishing from
Not at all.
And then time period, are there like typical like year, 2 year, 3 year? What kind of deals do you do? Deals that roll over?
So I would say we typically shoot for a year, and then up to that point, it's always going to be a mutual situation. At any point, by us being non-exclusive, there are so many great things about that for the artist. One being, and a lot of people don't know this, like if you're in a non-exclusive agreement with a sync agency, then that essentially means you can also do a non-exclusive agreement with another sync agency, and essentially have two different sync agencies pitching your music for whatever different opportunities in two different ways. And as far as the term, then it's for as a sync agency, we would love to keep your music as long as possible. But if for any reason, like for instance, maybe you go into a full publishing deal with someone else, that's going to be exclusive most likely. So that would be the case where we would have to sever our agreement so that you can now be exclusively represented by someone else. But that's pretty much it on our end.
Cool. Sounds totally reasonable. Lori was asking what would happen, and this is something that we ask this question sometimes. What would happen if you and another sync agency that are both representing somebody non-exclusively are pitching for the same thing, and then there's like interest? What typically happens in those kinds of situations?
Okay. In that situation, usually both sync agencies would come to an agreement on how we could split the commission based on the sync fee. But usually it would never be a case in which the artist would have anything taking more than what they agreed upon to have taken from their sync fee. As long as that's the case, that the artist isn't affected by it, then like Madden Flow as a company is happy, because we're always artist first, songwriter first. So.
And I've typically heard in these kinds of situations that one agency will take kind of the lead because it's better for like just them to work with one company versus working with the fewer parties. It's like we go back to making it easier. The fewer parties that have to be involved, the better.
Yes, and that's truly the case, because it's a kind of a thing where you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen, especially when the music supervisor, as I mentioned earlier on, you want to make their lives easy, and you don't want to do anything you don't want to complicate their lives. It's so that would just be a situation where, you know, we ourselves can agree on how we'll split the commission sync fee, and then one of us will take lead.
Cool. I got I got a couple more questions for you. They have nothing to do with music. So somebody's asking what your favorite LA breakfast restaurant is.
Oh, that's a really good one. Ooh, there's a spot in Culver City. I think it's called Met in Paris.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, that place.
yeah, it's really good. I would say that. And then there's a spot in Ladera Heights called Pans, and it's a really old school diner kind of vibe. So in both situations, when you walk in, you'll be like, "Oh, this feels like I'm in a different place or another era."
And somebody was also asking like, what's your favorite coffee drink? What's your what do you like to drink for coffee?
You know what? I'm not as big of a coffee drinker, but when I do, please don't laugh, whole class, but I don't really like the taste of regular coffee, so I doctor it up so much until it almost just tastes like hot chocolate. Yeah.
No, nothing wrong with that. I'm like the master of like the dirty mocha, just like the
Yeah.
hot chocolate, half coffee. It's great.
Okay, so that's exactly what I'm on. We're on the same page.
Lakers or Clippers?
Ooh, too easy, Lakers. And Lakers are actually like looking solid too.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited.
Are you from LA, or have you been here your whole life, or what's your story there?
So I've been in LA about 5.5 years, and I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia. Then lived in Boston for 5 years. So it's just crazy because I always considered Boston my second home, but at this point now, Boston's gotten bumped into third, and LA is the second home now. Yeah.
Well, I think that you've been so generous with your time with us. Thanks so much, Rashad, for joining us, and I hope we can have you back sometime soon. It's been
Sure,
great.
that would be great, and I'm excited to actually get some submissions. It sounds, based on the questions that I've seen, it just I would love to hear some music from all of you guys.
There's some really talented people in this group that you're speaking with. So I'm looking forward to, anytime we bring somebody on, there's a potential for there to be like relationships that are built outside of just like the call here. So I'm just,
Sure.
it's very cool and generous of you to be willing to listen to music. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how maybe some folks in the class develop business relationships with Madden Flow. So
Sure, that's great, and you know what? The same goes for you. I would love to link up sometime, especially since you're in LA.
absolutely.
I would love to meet you at either one of these, sync events or just for drinks or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if you're going to go to Taxi, but I'll be at Taxi this weekend. So, but yeah, we'll connect up. We'll definitely have to connect up. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, sounds good. Well, everybody have a great day. It was nice speaking with everybody.
Have a great one. All right, catch you later, everybody.
See you.